Descending into the second jail world, we find ourselves in a large windy space that replaces the mysterious danger of the previous world with a no less mysterious, desolate calm. The veil-like clouds in the distance hide and protect us from worries beyond. Empty, alone, safe. That feeling dissipates as our point of view shifts to reveal a large sphere, a perfect form in this formless void, both important and ominous. The voice instantly appears next to our platform.
I'll tell you what I know on the way.
Violating physics, as usual.
But don't expect all the answers. It's all about what a man does.
He lacks the time, knowledge, and/or incentive to tell us everything. Besides, we rarely have enough information to make decisions, which is the basis for the sensation we call free will. Without that sensation, our actions lack meaning.
That, my friend, is a prison. A prison within a prison. A very clever trick.
The large buffer of space now makes sense, and he opens the way for us with his magical touch. Another sphere lies inside, spinning and separated by a mote of electricity, reinforcing that something dangerous lies within.
You and the prisoner have a lot in common. She turned up one day, destroyed everything in her wake, and then, BAM! She got caged.
So, we have an indiscriminately destructive female counterpart.
They had to build all these layers so she couldn't get out, and you couldn't hear her scream.
Prisoners scream from either insanity or torture.
She tried to tear through those walls so many times. But they just kept growing back around her. It drove her completely insane. Enraged, she'll hunt anything and rip it to pieces. Now that's some jailer, right?
He sounds very pleased with this outcome.
But you and me, we know that being locked up fucks you up inside. We know that so well, don't we? That's why we did what we did. That's why we're getting out. That's why our story doesn't end like hers.
This raises the question of whether we have something she lacks. Why are we capable of escape? Couldn't they have done the same to us as they did to her? We finally reach the innermost sphere, where inhospitable pulsing red lights and arcs of electricity surround a labyrinthesque arrangement of concentric walls. Looks less like a prison and more like a lair. Scratches in these metal surfaces look like they were made by a beast, or in this case, someone who has lost her humanity. Either way, we'd better stay alert. Her head moves like an animal sniffing out an intruder, and she attacks her prey without warning. Confined like an asylum inmate, her scream combines the frustration of this confinement with anger over missing her mark, and also serves as a threat to us to exit her territory. There's no finesse to her opening style, and her strategy is just crazed annihilation of everything to take us down as quickly as possible. Her outfit is basically a chastity belt, a torture device that can be used to keep her in line. Her pole restraint converts into a scythe, clearly the source of the large scratches throughout the arena. The scythe is emblematic of death, effectively telling us to prepare for the afterlife. Even with a weapon, her attacks are unconventional, her movements unpredictable, both hallmarks of insane fighting styles. Certain panels on the pillars and in the floor can be triggered to divert her attention. Prioritizing these targets instead of her opponent is symptomatic of a broken mind. It's almost as if her restraints were designed to fail, but only after she'd worked herself up into this mad frenzy, which has transformed her into a beast with but a simple fight-or-flight circuit. She's either running away or taking us down to eat our face through the muzzle of her cannon, which opens like a gnashing maw. She stands screaming, groin first as if possessed. Seeing red, she's relinquished caution in her attempt to push us into the pit, and we redirect her momentum to put her lights out. As in the battle between anger and patience in the psychomachia, wrath is her own enemy. Fury kills herself.
Well done. You put her out of her misery.
She was an animal that needed to be put down.
She crashed through one day, frantically searching for something. They couldn't make sense of her. She was so wild. So they put her in a cage. Then you came along and they did even worse. Way worse. It all went so wrong. But we're going to make things right again. Together.
The strap was out of her mind before she even got here. An eternity in solitary against her will has only amplified her pre-existing hysteria. Everyone and everything is an obstacle to her reaching an unknowable goal and must be eliminated. Despite breaking her restraints, she cannot escape the prison of her own mind. There's no cure for crazy, and the only room for chaos is a padded one. Or so the voice led us to believe, except he let slip 4 crucial facts that change everything. We can pull on those threads to unravel this insanity and find his little yarn is wrapped around something way worse. The first fact is she arrived here before us.
Then you came along and they did even worse.
Which means her prison predates the prison world system, which means we need to re-examine it.
That, my friend, is a prison. A prison within a prison. A very clever trick.
The real trick here is that the prison opens upon our approach, not upon his touch, as there's no access panel. The voice is simply admiring his handiwork up close. In sidestepping the door's path, he again sidesteps the question of his physical presence. All the doors and bridges open automatically. Also, this warning reads 56% and displays missing walls on a bird's eye cross-section of the prison. Indeed, the walls beyond this point are in disrepair and aren't growing back. This place is neither manned nor maintained, because there's nowhere for her to go, and therefore it no longer serves its original purpose. The second fact that she was frantically searching for something. Now I can only think of one universal thing that would drive a woman into hysterics. The urgency of reuniting with the child, or with her means of making one. If either of those apply to us, then we share the same genetics. She couldn't find us because we weren't here yet. The third fact is that she was literally caged like an animal.
Bam! She got caged.
The voice first uses the colloquial "got caged" to anchor our imagination so that we subconsciously dismiss the literal statement, "put her in a cage." Treat someone like an animal and they become one. The fourth fact is that when we came along, they did even worse.
Way worse.
To her.
It all went so wrong.
They needed another guardian, so they transformed her into a cybernetic monster that we wouldn't recognize. These facts hint that she's not insane. She's a would-be mother stripped of her will, conditioned like an animal, and programmed like a machine to efficiently dispose of anyone who enters her lab. As a biological mate, she is our weakness. Our nemesis in the sense that she could defeat us by diverting our original purpose, whatever that is, to fatherhood, which changes a man. So let's replay the scenario. We enter the formless, manifest nothingness of the void, within which lies perfect spherical wholeness, a void within a void, the shape of Mother Earth, the essence of the divine feminine, the incubator of possibilities.
I'll tell you what I know on the way. But don't expect all the answers. It's all about what a man does.
The surrounding clouds symbolize fertility as well as the misty space in between worlds, colored with sadness but also reliability. Permeating it all is the wind, the vital breath of the universe. That's no moon, it's an egg, and we're the seed, heading toward our singular interest.
That, my friend, is a prison. A prison within a prison. A very clever trick.
A clever trick of nature is that a womb is for making a person within a person. The prison's anatomy mirrors the anatomy of an egg cell. We penetrate the jelly coat, travel through the cytoplasm and into the nucleus. There's even an endoplasmic reticulum.
She tried to tear through those walls so many times. but they just kept growing back around her. It drove her completely insane.
To the extent she may be insane, it's not from walls growing back, but from an eternity of failing to fulfill an ever-urgent purpose. Her screams are of emotional anguish.
But you and me, we know that being locked up fucks you up inside. We know that so well, don't we?
He's poisoning the well so we don't look past his narrative.
That's why we did what we did. That's why we're getting out. That's why our story doesn't end like hers.
This foreshadows that since all the Guardians are also prisoners, that they have all been corrupted in some way over time. Red lights pulse like blood within broken, breathing walls, and in the center, the spark of life. These panels display a circle with 8 arrows pointing toward it from all directions. The chaos symbol is a circle with 8 arrows pointing outward to mean energy moving quickly and destructively from a single space. This is the opposite, energy constructively moving into one space. Energy carried by several seeds contesting a single egg. Her combat techniques require little precision. Many of her attacks are scattershot and directionless, and her beam sweeps large areas. Even her single-shot attacks track us. All this, combined with how easily she is distracted by the environment, indicates that she's mostly blind. In other words, she can't recognize us either. She didn't even know we were there until we triggered a noise that alerted her to our presence. In a less subtle emphasis of fertility, a mockery of reproductive organs adorns her groin, akin to the swelling of a female baboon. The sides of her cannon occasionally open up like a flower, inviting pollination. Notably not a precision weapon, the scythe is a weapon of renewal, cutting the old to make space for the new, perpetuating the cycle of life and opening the door to the realm of the true and invisible reality, thus hinting to us to look below the surface of the game. When held by a woman, the scythe also represents the cardinal virtue of fortitude. Rather than attempt escape, she has bravely endured endless isolation and torture while awaiting our union. As she frees her body, she also frees her mind. Her tactics become more human-like upon the removal of each restraint. Her ranged attacks serve to distract us while she prowls around for a chance to strike. The happy accident of this compromising position allows her to sense by touch the reality of who we are. However, she continues the attack because the wires connecting her skull and spine intercept, punish, and override her budding higher brain function. For example, her leg twitches as an electrical stimulus tingles her foot, then moves into her legs and waist to pull her limp body from the floor. Here she tries to resist the outburst she senses coming and suffers for it. And finally, her cybernetics clearly zap her brain and pelvic area into submission. Hijacking the killing intent of her programming, she edges us before allowing herself to be sacrificed. Her arms briefly yearn for our embrace as she falls. After her climax, light shines in from the exit of this womb. We are an indefinite soul who will be reborn into the next world. The strap is a hot mess, and the imagery surrounding her is as well, but that's consistent with the sticky subject matter. Is she our mother, our mate, or just some crazy gal? On the one hand, she's like Medusa, a virgin punished for her transgressions, transformed into a monster with a deadly gaze and no vocabulary. And we are like Perseus, sent to behead her. On the other hand, we're like Oedipus, killing our father figure in the chain and then symbolically mating with our mother. Either way, the strap was kept from her purpose. She was inherently chaotic, and that crippled her. She failed to acknowledge her obstacles, and thus could not overcome them. On the surface, she's also fighting for her freedom, and with each other's help, we both succeed in our own way. In her last moments, she uses her restored freedom to fight for her original purpose, her hope for the future. Thus ends our introspective journey between worlds, whereupon we transformed and defeated a chaos that had been contained for an eternity. In return, our past self was pruned to enable our own transformation. Thus was won a battle for freedom and for the soul of man.